All right, we're about to announce Jenefeness.
All right, cool beans.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's good. I was gonna say, oh, I can't see.
Oh, I can hear you. Okay, talk.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. We'll get it
but I'm Ashley. This is Cheryl. Tonight, and we have a little bit about investor organizations. You guys are familiar with the national organization focused on supporting women in investing. They have a podcast, very large. They published a book, and they also have a conference coming up in May. So check it out if you're not already associated with it, and you're involved in our Seattle Cheryl information. And yeah, so we'll get into our presentation with
Yes, this is Jenefeness, and she is going to talk to us about establishing and building business credit. Go ahead, Jenefeness.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you for having me. Thank you, ladies, for having me and everyone else that's there. One of the things I will say is I wanted to be there with you all, and I just had emergency situations come up. So I'm like, I'm still committed. So it was important for me to do this virtually, although I would much rather be there in person with you all. So we're going to get started. So as Cheryl and Ashley said, I'm going to talk about business credit and credibility. So according to the Washington Realtors website, can y'all hear me okay? Everything, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I couldn't hear that well when you all were talking. So there will be some call and response. If someone could get closer and kind of feed me the answers as you all are saying them, that would be awesome, because I don't know, whatever noise cancellation y'all got going on is working, because I don't even hear any of the conversations going on in the room. But I'm going to get started. So one of the things I was doing is researching realtors and women realtors, because I know that's what your Invest Her group is mainly about. And so I was looking at the fact that there's about 38,000 licensed real estate agents in Washington state. And of those, 23,000 of them are women. So that's like 62%, which is a huge increase over the last few years. The national average of female real estate licenses is about 55% per state. So Washington state is a lot higher, and we know why. We have beautiful, beautiful homes in Washington, right? But one of the things that I was thinking about when Cheryl asked me to come and speak was like what phase you all are in your businesses. And I'm not really sure. And so I do want to talk about that a little bit before we even get into the credit and credibility. So I know oftentimes I have a few clients who are realtors, a few clients who are brokers, a few clients who are dabbling in real estate. And so I know after that education and licensing, you know, there's that little limbo phase, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, now I'm supposed to sell. And so you're trying to figure it out. I just had a client recently. She worked for the Department of Human Services, the Washington State Department of Human Services. And she was a social worker for 20 years. And she decided she didn't want to do it no more. And she went into real estate, and she just recently sold a couple houses. And so now she's like, okay, it's working, because she's able to actually make money. So she had to find a broker, you know, she's starting to build up her network and market herself and starting to, like I said, sell and provide legendary, excellent customer service. And so my question to you, I see that there's quite a few people in the room. So I'm just curious, are you realtors? Are you brokers? Are you new? Are you experienced? So I can understand who I'm speaking to as I'm kind of cultivating your message.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So a large majority of the women in here are not necessarily agents or brokers. We do, there are agents in here, but we do a lot of different types of investing. So here, can you see people?
I can see. So the question is, what other, I see some hands. So can you feed me their answer, Cheryl?
Yep, so who in here who is an actual agent?
Okay, and what
A
about the
real
other
estate
folks?
agent, sorry. And who is an investor and buys houses for investing purposes?
Okay. So agents and investors, that's it. Those are the two categories?
Yes, that's what this group is we're real estate investors. We're women investors.
Okay, all right, lovely. Thank you. All right, so investors. So answer this question for me. Why are you interested in credit and credibility? Like, what is this going to do for you as an investor? Are you building up your investment portfolio? Is this a business for you? Like, do you have tell me more.
What'd you say? We need credit to buy houses.
Okay. I can't hear Cheryl, so if you're going to different people, I need you to tell me what they're saying.
Yep, can you explain what business credit is?
I will, yes, I will. That's what this whole master class is going to be about. Absolutely.
So, obviously, like we need credit to buy investment properties. We obviously, a lot of people will open businesses and then hold those houses or those investment properties in a business, an LLC.
Okay.
To take away liability from it being in their personal name.
Love it. That helps me a lot. Thank you so much. Okay, so you've probably created an LLC so that you can buy your houses through your LLC, and like Cheryl said, take away the liability from yourself. Beautiful. So with that being said, there are about 3 categories for every business owner that's in that room. So I'm just going to consider you all business owners, regardless if you are investors, brokers, agents, whatever you are. And so there's 3 categories, and you can tell me, you don't have to tell me, you can just look at these categories and see which one you fall into. As far as
are you recording this?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I'm recording this. Okay. So there's 3 categories, and you can look at each of these 3 categories and just see which one you fall into currently. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll fall into the finessed category within a matter of 3 to 6 months. So I'm going to go deeper into the finesse category because that's where I want you all to be. I don't matter where you are currently, but a finesse category means that you have a niche boutique specialization. And so the thing about it is, when you are an investor, or when you are an agent, or when you are a bread maker or a t-shirt maker, whatever your business is, most times there are multiple folks doing the same thing you're doing. I talked about realtors, right? And I said there's 38,000, over 26,000 female realtors in Washington. So if you don't have a niche or boutique specialization, then you can kind of get swallowed up with everybody else. You can have premium pricing when you're considered a boutique business. You have effective methods of your team. So everything you're doing, you have systems, right? So you can repeat and you can outsource the things that you're doing because you have a system in a way that it should be done. You have business credit, business trade lines, and that's what we're going to talk about today, how to build that up and how to build it up quickly. Would you all believe that if you have at least 5 credibility factors, you can have business credit starting tonight? I'm going to teach you how to do that tonight. So a little bit about me before we get started. I'm an educator. I actually love to teach. I work at WSU and I also work at Seattle Central. I teach economics and entrepreneurship. I know you're like, who is this woman, right? I'm also a small business owner. I've been a small business owner since 2009. I am a financial coach, an author, a public speaker, a life coach, and a business coach. I have 6 revenue streams. So 6. And guess what? 3 of them are passive. I speak a lot about passive revenue streams. I help entrepreneurs understand what it means to have passive revenue streams and how you can create them so that you're not constantly actively seeking money. And if you're not working or actively doing something, you're not getting money. So I can speak to passive revenue streams extensively. That's what I help clients to do. I started this current business, Fiscal Finesse, in 2020. I started it, in the wake of COVID. It was to help women to build their businesses during that uncertain time. It was like people were just really failing. Right. And I wanted them to get to that finesse category. So that's why I restarted my business. I originally started in Ohio, where I'm from. I'm a credit expert. So I've been a credit expert since 2011. That means a lot, because you will never hear a lot of people saying they're a credit expert. They'll say, I fix credit, I do this or I do that, but they're really not credit experts. They're just trying a system that may or may not work. I have studied the credit system. I've studied the things that can happen to raise your score 30 points, 60 points, to decrease it by 20 points. And that's business and personal credit, okay? So I've helped thousands of people purchase homes and lower their debt. And also I want to help you and your clients, right? So your clients will get the best rate when they have the highest credit score. So in order for you or your clients to be able to get the best rate, you got to have the best credit score. And that's business and personal, right? So the pictures you see right here, those are my 2 children, Pride and Joy. So I'm a mother of 2. I had my son when I was 16. And I mention that because a lot of women don't understand how they can possibly move beyond their circumstance, especially when you have circumstances like being a young single mother or divorced or whatever else there is. And so as I'm speaking to you all as women, I know there are some men in the room, but my point is, I want you to understand where I'm coming from and who I am. And then also I'm learning to play golf, and I'm not that good. And that's actually where I met Cheryl at. So I always put that picture up there because that just shows me that I need to be humble and I'm still learning because I'm not that good at all. All right. So what we're going to cover tonight is we're going to cover the credit uses and the benefits. We're going to cover personal versus business credit. We're going to cover business credibility factors, business credit and capital infusion, some methods for you to build your business credit, and then also credit management. Does that sound good to you all? I just need to see some thumbs up in the room. All right, cool. Sounds good. And let me know if I'm talking too fast, because I can get really excited and start talking like, y'all are like, hold, slow down. All right. So why business credit? Like you said a few minutes ago, whoever said it, I heard Cheryl, I couldn't hear you all, but you need credit in order to have positive cash flow, working capital, so you can keep on investing and buying properties so that you can expand, right? So maybe you have properties and now you want to do some leasehold improvements, or you want to do some type of expansion to your properties. Also sustainability. So oftentimes people run into cash flow problems and different issues with being liquid or fluid in their cash. And if you don't have credit, then you can't sustain whatever it is you've built, right? Then your capacity. That credit helps you have capacity. It helps you be able to sit back and actually do the things you love instead of having to do the things you have to do in order to make money. With credit, you can establish contracts. Oftentimes, I get clients all the time. They will get a contract of some sort and they sign it, but they can't sustain it because they don't have the capital to be able to do so. Just a quick story. I have a client. She has a natural hair care product, and she not recently, like in the last 2 months, but recently in the last 3 years, she got inside of, I want to say it was over 300 Sally stores and 100 and something Walmart stores. So that's huge for a small business, right? And she had a manufacturer, a third party manufacturing her product. But because of a lack of credit, she almost got kicked out of those stores because she was not able to keep up with the POs. So even though you get those contracts, if you don't have the proper credit, you can really put yourself in a pickle, in a bind, right? And also when you have business credit, then you don't have to be the personal guarantee. So like Cheryl said, it does not impact your personal finances, right? So it's not personal at all, right? So that's the reason why business credit is super duper important. So here's some reasons why some lenders when they try to put you in the box, why they deny, right? So most times it's for insufficient credit, delinquent past or present credit, or personal guarantee. And so if you may have experienced this already, but if you are in a marriage, most times when you go to buy a big investment or whatever you're trying to do, they'll ask not only for your personal income statement, for your spouses as well. And they may have them sign on the dotted line with you. And I don't know about y'all, but some spouses may be like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it, right? So they don't want their skin in the game. And sometimes they don't want your skin in the game. So that can hinder your projects because it's personal, right? You need to be a personal guarantee. So when you get this business credit, that separates you. And I know that's why a lot of you got the LLC, but you got to go further than just getting the LLC. So I'm going to run through this really quickly about the differences between personal versus business credit and how you build each one. Okay. So as far as the differences, your business credit should be built on your EIN number. So that is your employer identification number that you get from the IRS. That is free. Okay. Let me say that 3 times. Your EIN number is free. It's free, free, free. I get so many clients that pay for a service for somebody to do something for them that they could have done themselves in a matter of 5 minutes. I get clients after they've done it. They're like, oh my goodness, I just paid somebody $600 to do that for me. I'm like, why? Why don't you just do the research? It's so simple. But anyways, your business credit is managed by your EIN number, while your personal credit, of course, is managed by your Social Security number. With your personal credit, in order for someone to access it, they got to have your permission, right? And that's where inquiries come from, right? But with your business credit, anybody can access your business credit. They don't need your permission, and they don't even need your EIN number. Most times they just need the name of your business and they can access your business credit, and you can do the same. And you probably should be. If you're dealing with vendors, you want to know their credibility, right? So you should be doing that. There's several tracking agencies for your business credit. And Cheryl, stop me anytime if folks have questions. If you all have questions, I can see the room. If we were all in Zoom, of course, you could raise a hand or put it in the chat, but I don't want you to let me get too far and have a question and not get an answer. You can stop me at any time because I can get back on track easily, all right? So there are 3. You have a question?
Thumbs up. Like,
Oh, okay. Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much. So there's 3 major credit agencies for your personal, but there's several tracking agencies for your business. And then there's a Paydex score, and that ranges from 1 to 100. And then there's a credit score. And then, I mean, it's just like almost like the FICO and the Vantage. I don't know if you all know about the Vantage score, but that's becoming more and more popular now. The difference is the Vantage score is much higher than the FICO. So right now, folks are using the FICO 9, the FICO 10, and even some folks are still using FICO 8. There's been a lot of iterations. They were supposed to roll out right before COVID, but COVID kind of like, you know, messed everything up everywhere. But anyways, the difference is the Vantage score has a letter with it. So if someone has a 770 credit score, you might be like, oh, that's awesome, right? But if it's a 770C, then you also know that that is a Vantage score, and it's actually mid-range. It's not awesome because the Vantage score goes all the way up to 990, right? As far as your personal credit is concerned, inquiries can ruin your score. Inquiries cost your score anywhere from 5 to 10 points. Every time someone pulls your credit, it costs you 5 to 10 points. And then after a year, you get half those points back. And then after 2 years, the inquiry falls off. But an inquiry does nothing for your business credit, right? Because you don't have to give people permission to do that. Did I hear something? I'm sorry. No? Yes.
She says the soft hold. No, what I'm thinking, Jenefeness, is I'm gonna go in from Zoom from my phone. So will you accept this?
Oh, yes, that's perfect. Thank you. You're so smart. Yes, and then you can just text the questions. Thank you, Cheryl. I love that. Appreciate it. All right, so you can text her question and I'll answer it along the way. And any other questions? Go ahead.
What I was thinking is I could just hand them my phone and then they can ask it to you.
Yes, it's like passing the mic, but you're passing the phone. I love it. All right, yes. Any questions? Go ahead and use Cheryl's phone. Thank you for that. All right, so I was talking about inquiries, but one of the things I wanted to say, payment history is very important with your personal credit and your business credit, right? We all know that payment history is about 35% of what makes up your score for your personal credit, but it's about 50% of what makes up your score for your business credit. So payment history is super duper duper important, right? Credit mix is important when it comes to your personal credit. And again, inquiries have no effect on your business credit. So I'm going to stop right there and answer any questions that you all have.
So my question is, you said the key parts, and so what was that CG?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you at all.
Okay. Oh, I can hear myself. So when you.
Cheryl, either you can unmute on the phone or you can type it. I think typing it might be better. But I know it may take a while.
Here's the question. When you talked about the credit pull affecting your score, what about a soft pull?
Yeah, people say that they do a soft pull, but you can't trust it. Anybody that pulls your credit is going to affect you. The soft pull, they used to say, oh, it doesn't affect your score. If it does, it's just 2 points. I've seen people say it was a soft score and people's score go down. So, I mean, a soft pull and people's score go down. So anytime you're giving someone your social security number, that includes on your utility bills, applications, you know, anything you're giving someone your social security number for, be mindful that they will very likely pull your credit, and it's not going to be a soft pull. It's going to affect your credit negatively. For example, I had a client, it was beautiful to watch. This young lady, she was 22, and her boyfriend went to go rent a car. I think it was Enterprise. I don't know. It was one of them. Anyways, they got there and they asked him for his social security number. And she was like, no, wait, stop. No, why? And they were like, oh, it's our policy to pull, da, 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 da. And it was because they were under the age of 25. She said, let me see the policy. Because there really is not a policy. What they were trying to do is they were profiling them to make sure that they had the proper amount of credit in their eyes to allow them to rent this car under the age of 25. But really, it wasn't a policy. And so you're going to take this guy's score down because you didn't feel like he was worthy of renting your car. That's unacceptable. If you're not doing it and it's actually discrimination. So anyways, she said no. And guess what? They still rent them that car. So anytime someone is asking you for your social security number, you should assume that they're going to pull your credit. It's going to be a hard pull, not a soft pull. People say that, and it's going to affect you negatively. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions? You're muted, Cheryl, if there are other questions.
We're coming. Yep.
Okay.
Regarding payment history, what's a good enough minimum history to have?
That's a great question. With your personal credit, that is super important. The credit history, meaning the length of time that you have the credit, actually makes up 10% of your score. So the longer you have credit, the better your score is. That does not make a difference for business credit. You can instantly have an awesome score with business credit, instantly, meaning real short period of time. So this is why I tell clients too, even if you have a trade line that's horrible, like you had poor pay history, whatever, but it's old, like it's your oldest trade line, like that Lazarus account when you were 19, right? Even though it may look horrible, you leave it alone. You let it be on your credit report because it gives you that history from way back when you were 19 years old, which is probably all we could get, right? If we weren't building credit the right way, we could only get a store card, which was astronomically priced, and some of us didn't pay it off right? So it does not matter with your business, but it absolutely matters with your personal. And there's ways that you can trick the system by having a longer credit history. And one of those ways is by becoming an authorized user on someone's account who's had a long history of that account. So that's another thing I teach, like simple ways to build credit fast. Okay, so a lot of people feel like, oh, my credit is horrible, it's going to take me a whole year. No, it does not. I usually can get a client 90-point increase in about 90 days. Okay, so great question. Thank you for that. Hopefully I answered your question. Any other questions in the room, Cheryl?
Nope, no other hands up.
Awesome. All right, we are moving on. So as you all can see, poor financial management can stop you from sustainable business growth. So there are about 8 boxes that a traditional lender will put you in. 8 boxes. So the first thing they look at is the credit score, right? The score is going to always be important because that's what they deem a lot of things off of. The second thing they're going to look at is your credit history. Your credit history will tell a real good story, a clear picture of you, right? You may have 3 accounts, and in December of 2020, all 3 of them went delinquent, right? So of course that's going to affect your score, whether it was delinquent 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. It's going to affect your score. But it's one of those things that a lender can look at and say, oh, I can see the pattern here. Something happened in December, but you got back on track in January and been on track ever since. Yes, your score is lower because you had those delinquencies, but they still look at your credit history. They also look at your cash flow. Are you going to be able to pay me my money back? That's important, right? The other thing they look at is the length of time in business. Like I said before, a lender is going to want somebody that has skin in the game, that has credibility, that has knowledge of the industry they're in, and also a history of doing the right thing in business. The other thing they're going to look at is collateral. They're going to look at the industry. They're going to look at your loyalty to them. So most times they're going to give money to folks who already have accounts with them. Like if it's a credit union, they want you to have, you know, a certain level of loyalty to them. They want to see transactions going on in your accounts. And then the last thing they're going to look at is credibility. And this is what I want to spend a little bit of time on. Everything else, I'd love to speak to you one-on-one about, but credibility is what's really important. Credibility is key. There are so many folks. I mean, when I say COVID just launched a zillion different small business owners, whether they are investors like some of you, whether they are real estate agents, whether they are people who fix credit, or people who sell t-shirts, or people who sell waist trainers, or maybe that's just my timeline on Facebook. I don't know. But it just seemed like every time I scroll, I'm like, oh my goodness, another one, and another one, and another one, right? But the only way that a lender, or even a potential vendor, or a potential supporter of your business, the only way they're going to know you're credible is if you have these credibility factors, okay? So I'm going to go through some credibility factors that are super duper important. Hopefully you all are taking notes, because if you have at least 4 of these credibility factors, you can get business credit tonight, okay? So the first credibility factor is that EIN number. Remember I talked about the employer identification number? So this is the way that your business is identified. And so it's super duper important for you to have an EIN number that identifies you, your business, separate from you as the individual, right? And it's the way that folks like to lend. The other credibility factor, number 2, it's actually going away, but it's still relevant right now, is the DUNS number. The DUNS number. And so oftentimes people will use that as a factor as well. And what it does is it helps them to see that Cheryl's realty specialty in Washington is different from Cheryl's realty specialty in Oregon or Ohio or Mississippi or whatever. So that DUNS number is that differentiator as well, right? Then there's a business phone number. Oh my goodness. So many people miss this credibility factor. I have gone and gotten someone's business card, and I look at it and I may send them a text message or a call, and the number's wrong. Then I go to their website and it's another number, or I go to their Facebook page and it's another number. Your business phone number is really a credibility factor, and it should be the same across every single platform that you have, because most times a lender will do a reverse lookup to see, is this really a business? Is this personal? Or who else is attached to this number? That is a huge credibility factor that a lot of folks overlook, okay? The other thing is your business website and email, okay? This is very, very important. You should not have Cheryl@gmail.com. You should have hello@CherylRealtySpecialty.com or whatever you want it to be, but you need to have a business email address and also a business website. Now, I'm not saying go out and build something that's all grandiose, because it could be a one-page website, or you can purchase the URL and point it to your social media if you want to. It doesn't have to be something where you're like, oh my goodness, I got to hire somebody. This is too much money, blah, blah, blah. But at least purchase the URL, have it point somewhere, right? And have an email, an official, credible email address. Now, you can do that cheaply and quickly. You can do it through Google. You can do it through GoDaddy. You can do it through HostGator. You can do it through Webhost, Bluehost, Webmail, and they're cheap. They're like $2.99. So gone are the days where we have Cheryl@gmail.com and we're doing business at that email address. You can have any email forwarded to your Gmail address if that's what you get on your phone and that's most convenient for you. Just make sure you have a business website and email address, because that is an important credibility factor. The next credibility factor is your business banking account. This I can't harp on enough. Your finances have to be separate from your personal and your business. We do not commingle funds, right? So say that out loud. We do not commingle funds. I can't hear y'all, but I hope y'all saying it. So my point is, when you go to get any type of lending, they're going to ask you for your financials. And most times they want to see your business bank account. And they don't want to see personal things going out of there, because they want to be able to trust you. And that's a credibility factor. And so if you can handle this business account and take care of it and have a positive cash flow and no, silly willy business going on in there, that is a credibility factor. And it doesn't have to be in your business name. Like sometimes you haven't got all of your documents together. You can open up a business account in your personal name, but use it for business purposes, right? So it's just strictly for business. That's going to be so important. And that's credibility factor number 5. The 6th credibility factor is going to be your financials, your business financials. And so what that looks like is your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow. And some of you may be saying, well, I don't have all of that. Well, it could also look like your projections. If you're starting up and maybe you haven't made any money, but you've actually spent some money, I'm sure. And so you can create your projections, your cash flow projections, your sales projections, and that can be your business financials, even if you don't have a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, or a profit and loss statement. That's okay, as long as you have something. So those projections, and most times, even if you do have the balance sheet, the cash flow, and the profit and loss statement, they still want projections, because they want to know, how do you plan to get money? How do you plan to spend money? Do you have a plan for this? And most time, it's just a guess. And that's another thing. I love to do financial projections, because it really helps you to really plan out. Some people don't realize that you might be in business for 8 months before you start making money. What are you going to do with your fixed expenses? How are you going to break even? What are you going to do in the meantime? How much money do you need to sustain yourself? That will help you to become a successful business owner if you just put those things on paper and identify them and look at those projections. So that's another thing that, I love to do. And then the 7th credibility factor is your social media presence and your reviews. Listen, it is so important in 2023 to have a social media presence and reviews. I don't care if you just create a page for Cheryl's Realty Specialty and you just say, hey, I'm reading a book today, right? whatever. You know, you just got to have a presence because this is the way that people make buying decisions. This is the way that people make lending decisions. So when I went earlier today, I'm in Mississippi right now. So I went to this restaurant and the first thing I did was I looked at their reviews. I wanted to know, what do other people think about them? Is it good? It was called Kill Me Crazy. Kill Me Crazy. So I looked at their reviews. I looked at the pictures that were posted. I looked at the food. It all looked good. And I went in there and guess what? It was good. I was really impressed and I was happy. And I'm the type of person that I leave reviews. I don't know about y'all, but I leave reviews too. I pay attention to reviews and I leave reviews because it's important. It's important when folks are making buying decisions, especially our peers nowadays. Okay. So I'm going to pause right there. And my question to you all is, how many credibility factors do you have in your business right now? If y'all talking, I can't hear you.
Jenefeness, will you mute yourself real quick?
Unmute myself.
No, will you mute yourself? We're going to test something.
Oh, yes. Mute myself.
Testing. So, okay. And you can tell her you can unmute.
All right.
Okay, I'm not familiar with a Dunn's review or number.
Dunn's number. So Dun & Bradstreet is a company. It's a well-known and well-trusted company. It's actually being replaced by Sam's. So it's not, if you don't have it, it's not going to be relevant in about 6 months. So don't even worry about it. But back in the day, maybe 6 months ago, it was a really relevant number. A lot of folks use it. A lot of folks trust. It's almost like the Better Business Bureau. Dun & Bradstreet was like that Better Business Bureau that had all of your information in one place. And I'm going to talk about another one of those in a moment. So if you don't have it now, it's actually being phased out. For the government is actually phasing it out. SAMS.gov is going to take the place. So you should be registered. Your business should be registered there. SAMS.gov. Thank you for that.
I've got a question. I noticed that one of the credibility factors wasn't either a business license or registration with the Secretary of State. Is that an important factor or it doesn't weigh in?
Well, it's actually the first step. So anybody that has a business, you should absolutely have that. And most people do, but they just go, that's the only thing they have. Like people go and register, I got my LLC. And it's like, what else? So that is like the, I guess the foundation. You got to have that before any of these other things. So that's why it wasn't mentioned. So thank you for bringing that up.
I'm sorry. So, hi. I just have a question about the business phone numbers. So are there any good sources you recommend for getting like a free business phone number?
Yeah. So the first one is Google Voice.
That's currently okay.
Google Voice is a great one. They take messages. You can text from there. It records the messages. It records the conversations. And it's, yeah, I would say Google Voice. There's several out there. I would do a Google search, but that's the one that's been tried and true for me. I use it on 2 of my businesses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Can I ask it? Question I have is address, like physical business address wasn't one of the things either. I applied for a credit card for one of my businesses, and one of the things that I struggled with was providing an address. And I'm wondering, would like a personal address be sufficient in that case? I ended up having to do like a weird workaround, which ended up being fine, but it was just really frustrating. So
Yeah, I get that question a lot too. Here's what I recommend. Whatever address you use, just continue to use that address. And most times it's simplest to use your home address. And that's okay, because a lot of folks do business out of their home and it does not disqualify you. It's not like it's discrediting you because you're doing business in your home. This is the norm. So don't feel like it has to be separate from your home address, because it does not. And actually, a lot of lenders are not even looking for that. A lot of folks feel like, oh, I got to do UPS, a UPS box or UPS address. You don't have to do that. Back in the day, that was important to be official business, but it's not anymore. Oh, I lost your phone, Cheryl, so you have to log back in. While you're doing that, I'm going to move on because I know it's 7:17 and I want to make sure that I'm able to cover a lot of these things. There you go. Beautiful. So, building business credit. Oh my goodness, this is why you all came. So I am going to give it to y'all. So listen, I told you, if you have at least 4 of those credibility factors, you can walk away tonight and have at least 1 line of business for your, line of credit for your business. So the very first thing I'm going to go over is trade accounts. So this is so simple. And you know, we do these hacks on our personal credit, right? We put stuff into the cart and we walk away 30 minutes and they say, hey, do you want to buy this now and pay later? And you're like, oh yeah, you just gave me a credit card. Okay. So that's one of those shopping cart hacks. Well, you can do the same for your business. So there are net 30 payment terms, net 60 payment terms, net 90 payment terms. So those are some tiered accounts, and we'll talk about them a little later. I'll give you some examples and I'll give you a whole list if you want to get started tonight. But the point is, when they allow you to pay in net 30 terms, that's essentially business credit. And the ones that I'm going to give you all won't even ask for your social security number. They just ask for your EIN number. And that could be your very first business trade line. Okay. So some of those accounts are like Uline or Quill. It's like the Walmart for business, right? So you can go on and, you know, you got to buy toilet tissue or you have to buy trash bags or whatever. Maybe it's not for your business per se. Maybe it's for personal use, but it's something you were going to have to buy anyway. And it'll help you build up your business credit. So that's the very first thing that I would recommend. I recommend that you absolutely get 3 to 4 of these accounts. I'm not saying use all of them, but get them before you go on to start building up on the next account that I'm going to talk about. Does that make sense to you all? There's a process to building business credit. It's not like you can just go and apply for a Capital One Spark card. Right? You have to have some of these accounts to show your credibility and build up to that Capital One Spark card. And by the way, Capital One Spark card is probably the best business credit card because they're universal. But is that clear? Having multiple trade accounts, can I see some thumbs up? Okay, cool. So you got to have multiple of these trade accounts before you move on to the revolving store credit. So after you have about 4 or 5 trade lines and they're reporting to at least one of the credit agencies for at least 2 billing cycles, so about 45 days they're reporting, right? Then you can apply for a revolving store account. And so that means like going to Staples or Best Buy or Office Depot, and applying for those accounts with using your business EIN number, okay? So you have the 4 or 5 trade accounts, then you go to the revolving store credit, then you go to the fleet credit. And so this is where you go and you get one of these fleet credit cards. And this is like, they have a higher limit. Most times they start off at 25,000 or, 50,000. And these can be used for pretty much anything, but the main use is for buying, maintaining a vehicle, right? So that's your fleet credit. And they're easy to get, okay? And I can send links to these, but once you have them, they're there, they report, and they like I said, they usually have a higher limit to them. And then you go out and you get your cash credit. So that cash credit is like your Business American Express or your Chase Ink card or, your Spark business card, right? So this is the ones that have the Visa or American Express next to it. And it's not linked to a specific store, right? So that's the difference between the fleet credit and the revolving store credit. They're not linked to a store. And sometimes once you get to this point, you do not have to put your social security number on these applications. So this is when you start to become separate from your business. So you're not a personal guarantee anymore because now your business has been built up enough where you are credible. And they're like, oh, I see she already has a BP card, or I see she already has a Best Buy card. Okay, wonderful. We're going to go ahead and throw her this Spark card, and we're going to give her a high limit because we want her to use this card more than she uses those other cards, right? Because we want to gain that interest, which we should not be paying interest, but we'll talk about that another day. Okay. Another thing. Now, this right here is the best thing smoking. I help my clients do this with their personal credit for years. Well, now Credit Strong also has an account for business. So I don't know if you all know about Credit Strong or if you know about Self, but what it is, it's a savings vehicle that reports to the credit agencies. So for your personal credit, you can create this savings vehicle and you can go from $1,000 all the way up to like $50,000. And based on whatever one you choose, that's the amount of payment you have every month, right? So you can also do this for your business credit. It's a great way to build business credit because you're building a business savings and business credit at the same time. So while all the rest of this stuff is debt per se, right? If you use it, it's going to be debt. This is actually a savings vehicle. So you're building credit and saving money at the same time. And once you've paid it off, it looks like an installment loan on your credit report. But once you pay that final payment, you receive a check in the mail. Now, I've done this several times, and I'm telling you, it just feels good every single time I get that check in the mail. I'm like, yes, okay, because you're building credit, you're building savings, and now you can also do it with your business. This has been going on for personal credit for a long time. It's one of the ways that I help my personal clients to build their credit. Okay, then you can go into some unsecured financing, right? So this is when you can get a line of credit or
Got a question.
yes.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
The question about the credit score. Can you kind of explain that further? Does that mean it's
I can't hear. It's very, very, I can't hear.
Is that muted? AirPods.
That's why it's in my pocket.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. What's our question?
Our question is,
Can
I've
you-
never heard of what is this Credit Strong and how do you get money back? I don't.
Yeah, is it like an installment loan and your payments towards it is what is your savings?
So Credit Strong and Self, it's like, there's only a couple companies that do it. What it is like a CD, basically. This is exactly what it is. It's like a CD. But instead of you putting the money up front for the CD, like normally in a CD, like you have $10,000 that you put away and you earn this little bitty interest, right? Well, with these particular accounts, you're saying, I want a $10,000 vehicle deposit, but you're making payments on it every month to get up to that 10,000. Once you've reached it, they send you that check because it's a savings account and the interest that you gained on it. I've done it through Self at least 6 times because you can do it for 6 months. You can do it for 1 year. With Credit Strong, it's much higher. Like the one that I have right now, I believe is $25,000. I pay $250 a month. So once it gets to that $25,000, they're going to send me a check. Now, the awesome part about Credit Strong that is not with Self is if you were to cancel, let's just say I got to a place where I'm like, you know what, I don't want this anymore. I cancel it. They send me whatever the balance is, and it does not negatively affect my credit. Now with Self, it does. These are the only two companies that do it, Self and Credit Strong. Self looks like you defaulted because it appears like an installment loan on your credit, but it's not. So it's a way that you build your savings and your credit at the same time. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for that. Was a good question. Because a lot of folks get confused on this, and I'm telling you, it's the best thing smoking. Back in the day when I first started helping people with credit, I would tell them, hey, let's get a secured card and build your credit that way. That's so horrible now. With these two products, there's no way. You're saving money and building credit at the same time and don't have debt. That's the best thing smoking. So yes, yes, and yes. Any other questions before I move on?
Are you asking like,
What's the question?
like, can you,
Question was, instead of defaulting, could you just pay the balance, like fully
Yes.
fund it so you didn't check?
on the Self one?
On both of them, yes.
On both of them, okay.
We didn't get the.
You can just pay it off. There's no prepayment penalty or anything like that. Great questions. Any other questions before I move on? All right. Can I see some thumbs up? Okay, cool. All right, wonderful. All right, so after you've built your credit up, and here's the mistake that a lot of people do. They go and they try to go get an unsecured loan because they have an LLC. Like, I got my LLC, and they go to their bank, Bank of America or Chase or whomever, and they're like, I got an LLC, can I get some money? And they're like, yeah, no. And they don't understand why. Like, wait, I've been with you for 17 years. My house is through you. My car note is through you. I've been running my money through you for 17 years. Well, that was you on a personal level. You personally is wonderful. You as a business, not so much. I don't know you like that, right? That's basically what they're saying. But once you do this route that I'm showing you, you will get yeses every single time. So then you can go out and get an unsecured financing. You can go out and get a micro loan, a 7A loan, or a 504 loan, or AA certification, a line of credit. You can do like the invoice financing or AR factoring. I would not recommend this. It's a really, really expensive way to finance anything that you're going to finance. But the only time, I would never recommend it, to be honest. But I do see folks using it when they need a really quick turnaround. Most of these things are not going to be quick. And so if you need a really quick turnaround, and even though it's the most expensive way that you could ever fund your business, it's quick, right? And that's why it's quick, because they know that they're charging you astronomical predatory prices. And so I would not recommend it. I have it in the presentation because sometimes people need that, right? And it's the same with purchase order financing. Supplier financing is a good way to get things done. And then asset-based lending. So they'll look at your assets and they may lend to you that way, okay? Maintaining is gonna be the key. So once you've built this credit up, and this is a trap that a lot of folks fall into. They build up the credit and then they're like, oh wait, I forgot to do, or I didn't do, or whatever. It's the same with our personal. If you miss one payment, it's going to mess you up, right? And it doesn't take long for you to rebuild, but it does take some time to rebuild. So maintenance is key. This QR code here, if you want to take a moment to do whatever you need to do, this is a copy of the presentation. Okay. So if you want a copy of this presentation, you can just use that QR code right there. I'm going to give a few minutes in case you all want to do that. All right. And so next, I'm going to give you all some bonuses. So I have some bonuses, some tips for your personal credit, that tier 1 trade accounts that I was telling you all about, and some bonuses as far as some revenue streams and maybe doing things a little bit more passively. But before we do that, I'm going to give you all a couple minutes this is this QR code is a review. I'd love for you all to provide a review. I told you that's a credibility factor. It's very important to me as I'm building my business that other folks like you all will see like, oh yeah, she's amazing. She taught us so much, you know, whatever. My love language is words of affirmation. So, you know, whatever y'all want to say. But I'm going to give y'all a couple minutes right now to write a review, and then I'm going to come back and give you some more bonuses. And while you're doing that, I am happy to answer questions.
Hi there, I'm Susie.
Hi,
This is
Susie.
more of a verification question. Let's say I've done all these things. I've got the 6 or 7
There were 7.
credibility factors,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm at the net 30 payment terms. Do I need to do like several of those, or like is Quill enough, for example?
I
don't know
would
if that makes
highly
sense.
recommend you do at least 3 to 4, 3 to 5, really.
Wow.
They are
Wow,
not going
okay.
to hurt you at all. And you need to use them. You just need to have them.
Open.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's
Thank you.
not
I
like
think I had started this some years ago, but I didn't pursue it. I
yeah.
started with the Quill account and I got the EIN and DUNS, but it kind of stopped there. It kind of, didn't go any further, but it's really good to have the next step for me on this.
Thank you.
Yes, she wants to know what are some other examples of the net 30 vendors besides Quill?
Yeah, I'm going to give you those in just a moment. That's one of the bonuses that I'm going to give you, a whole list. Thank you. These are great questions. All right, everybody get a chance to write a review. Did y'all give me awesome accolades, words of affirmation? All right, cool. We're going to move on. All right, so here's one of the bonuses. And this is something I want to share with you all, but I also want you to each one teach one. So many of us have never been taught about credit, never been taught how to build it, how to maintain it, what to do, what not to do. And so if you could just share some of these things with at least 2 or 3 people, we will all be in a better state. What I will say is this, as a Black woman, the average credit score of a Black person is in the 620s. The average credit score of a white person is in the 17s, like 712, 713, whatever, right? So the way that we narrow the racial wealth gap is to educate one another, not just Black and white. But my point is, we got to educate each other. So the first thing I'll say is do not close your oldest trade line, because again, that goes back to your credit history, the length of time that you have credit, which plays into your score. 10% of your score comes from that, right? Also, here's the big one. A lot of you may feel like, okay, I've been in the 700s for 6 years. I can never get out. I don't know how to hit that 800 mark or the 820 mark. Here's how you hit that. If your credit score is between 730 and 780 and you have not been able to go past that, it's because of capacity. Here's what that means. You're utilizing credit, you're paying it on time, you have good credit history, you have good payment history. Those things are doing really well. Capacity is worth 30% of your score. And what that means is you have to bring your trade lines under. This says 20%, but really with this new FICO 10 score, they need to be under 10%. So if you have, I don't know, $100,000 worth of credit to use, you should only be using about $5,000. I know that may sound crazy. $10,000 may sound crazy, I know, but you should not be living on it. And that's how you get to the 800, the 820, the 850, that perfect credit, by keeping your capacity down, right? The other thing I'll say is do not open any new trade lines for up to 6 months prior to securing a loan. So if you know that you're about to have a huge investment, you got to get your stuff in order and then pause for about 6 months. Give your credit enough time to kind of build up, right? And a lot of lenders, they don't want to see a ton of things going on when they're giving you credit either. So make sure that you have that rest period. And they like to see about 6 months. Okay. What else can I explain on here? I think that's about it. If y'all have questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. But really, these are just some tips for personal credit.
We got a question, Jenefeness.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I hear different things about number of credit cards we should carry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear it's good to have one because every credit card, even though there is no balance on it, counts towards the maximum of what you can get as a debt that you already have. What is true?
That's a wonderful question. And I get this all the time. So one of the things I will say is it really depends on a couple different factors. So number one, you want to have access, right? So I had a client who had these credit cards. I don't know why I'm laughing because it's not funny, but she had about 6 credit cards and the highest limit on all 6 was like $400. And I'm like, oh, that ain't doing nothing for you. Like, you need to have credit card limits that are like 20,000, 25,000. And so for someone whose limits are so low, you need multiple, or you need to get one and ask them to increase your limit. So it really depends. And those are things that I would have to look at individually. There is not a blanket statement in any expert that'll tell you, no, you only need 2 credit cards. That's false. It really depends on what the limits are, what you have, what you're trying to do, right? And also what you have access to, because you could have a credit card that's maxed out, that's $5,000, but you have others that have a limit or gives you the capacity of 100,000. So that 5,000, even though it's maxed out, it still helps your credit, right? Because it's under the 5% that we were talking about. So it really just depends. And I would love to do a credit analysis with any of you. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment, but it depends on your situation and who you are and what you got going on financially. What you don't want is a lot of debt that's just hanging out there and your capacity being too high. That can hinder you a lot. But having multiple credit cards and having a lot of access to credit cannot hinder you. It will not hinder you. It actually helps you. Okay. But you have to use it. So utilization is something else. And I always tell my clients this: utilize your credit by paying your natural monthly bills from your budget. So for example, I have this cell phone bill, for me and our household, $120 a month. I'm going to pay it every single month. So guess what? Instead of me paying this out of my checking account, I pay it on my credit card and I pay it off every month. Guess what? I get points. That's helping my capacity and my utilization. So if you have a debit card in your wallet right now, cut it up. You should be using your cards to pay your bills so that you can maximize whatever point system you're getting, whether it's cash back, points, whatever you're getting. Use the credit cards. It's not the devil. I know a lot of us have been taught credit cards is the devil. No, it's not. It can help you. It can benefit you. Throw those debit cards away because that ain't helping you at all, right? Pay your bills, get those points. I recently went to Kenya for free. My flight was $46. That was the taxes because of all the points that I have on a credit card. A Kenya trip for free, round trip on Emirates, okay? So my point is, use the credit cards, get those points, get that cash back, pay it off every single month. Don't pay any interest. Throw those debit cards away. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Hopefully that's helpful. So here's a list of those tier 1 trade accounts. Y'all can take a picture if you like, or like I said, y'all can get a copy of the presentation. But here's a list of some. Okay, so there's not just Quill and Uline and Grainger. There are all kinds. And also, this is a short list. You can Google, you can Google net 30 trade accounts. You can Google net 60 trade accounts. There's like a PDF. I Googled it just the other day. So there's all kinds. And based on what your business is, what your industry is, there may be some that's more relevant to your industry, okay? The other thing I'll tell you is make sure you get an Amazon business account because they got an Amazon business card. And most times those cards start off at $10,000 or $15,000. Hello, it's an American Express. You can use it anywhere, right? So get the Amazon account. They'll give you a trade line. I think their trade line start up at 60, net 60. Maybe it's net 30, I don't know. But get that first. Use it a couple times, whatever, and then get the credit card. Get the business credit card. They don't even ask for your social, okay? The other thing I want to give you all is some bonus revenue streams. Oh my goodness. I know when you're building your business, it could be like, oh, I got one more thing to add to my plate. I don't have no time for this. But I'm telling you, it's so important to have some passive revenue streams, right? And all of us are an expert at something, and we're 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 steps ahead of the next person. And they're willing to listen to us because we've amassed some level of success. And that's so important. Okay. The last thing I want to leave you all with is my link. So I am willing to give you a complimentary session. I'm willing to do a credit assessment for you and also analyze what's going on with your credit, if you're in the right vehicles, what's going on with your business credit, and even looking at some of the things you're doing if you feel like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, I need some help. But that's what I do. I'm a business coach, and I'm giving away at least one free complimentary session to you all. And this is the QR code for you to fill out the assessment, and we can get it scheduled. All right. I will leave that there for a couple more seconds, and then I'm going to close the screen and see if you all have any more questions.
We got questions.
Yes. I'm ready.
So my question has to do with the actual banks. Like, is there a bank that you recommend for business banking?
Yes.
Specifically, I've heard about credit unions being better, local credit unions being better for purchasing property.
I would highly recommend that you go to a credit union over a bank. And here's why. They are not highly regulated like these banks. They are not highly regulated. They, you own the credit union as a member, number one. Number two, their rates are comparable and they're much more lenient. They don't have the high scrutiny that the banks have as far as regulations are concerned. So I would highly recommend a credit union for your personal and your business. Remember, one of those credibility factors were not the credibility factors, the boxes that they try to put you in, the 8 boxes were loyalty. And so you open an account, them seeing transactions in your account, it's going to be an easy shoe in for you to get a loan rather than some of these big banks. They're highly regulated. So they have to check all 8 of those boxes. Whereas a credit union, they may check 6, they may check 5, right? And feel really good and strongly about that relationship and still allow you to borrow. Now, I will say this. Sometimes you may go and say, I need $50,000. And they may say, we'll give you 10. We'll see how you do. Then you come back and get some more. That's okay. They're not saying no. They want to see how you do in order to give you more. Okay? Great question. Any other questions?
Hi, I have 2 questions. The first one is around the personal credit. At what point in time does your personal credit stop playing a role in the decision factors for subsequent loans and credit you're opening for your business? And the second question is around bank choices. Because the truth is, at least in the US, savings accounts are not necessarily the best bet for the consumers or even businesses. Have you worked with LLCs that have preferred brokerage accounts instead? Being able to kind of utilize their money to grow it in the market. Of course, there are risks in there, but I'm just curious, if you've also worked with that. So, the first one is, at what point does your personal credit stop playing a role? And the second one is brokerage accounts on the LLC side.
Okay, so for your first question, first of all, both really great questions. The first question, you stop being a personal guarantee when your business can fend for itself. So basically, once you've built up that business credit and you have all those different trade lines, they no longer ask for personal guarantee. You can go into a car dealership and get a vehicle on your EIN number alone, right? But you have to build it up sequentially, that process that I just went over. There's no way you can go in there tomorrow and you don't even have, a credit card or a Fleeta card. You have to build it up to where they see, oh, there's a track record here that you really have true business credit. You're not just like that instantaneous fly by night. You come in here with your LLC, you're not liable as an individual. So if you stop paying, what's the liability? So your business credits, your personal credit stops being a factor when your business can stand alone. Your business stands alone when you've built up enough credit and credibility. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. The second question, so I don't have a Series 6 or a Series 73 license, so I never ever give anybody any advice as far as investments are concerned, but I do know some professionals who do have those licenses and give that advice. They advise me on some of my things, and they give that advice daily. So I don't have any recommendations as far as that's concerned, but I do have recommendations on folks that can assist you. So if you want that, reach out and I can definitely give you a couple of folks that can help you with that.
One more. So oftentimes people are setting up different LLCs for each property or groups of properties. Would you recommend building credit in each of those or in like the holding company or like the, I know you have multiple businesses. Are you building up credit for each of those or are you kind of focused on one?
So all of my businesses are different. And so that's when I would recommend that you build up each one because they're different, they're separate, they're not intertwined at all. They don't have anything to do with each other. So I would highly recommend you're building up each of those businesses. It may make sense for you to build up several businesses even for the same industry. And I couldn't tell you without looking at what you're doing, looking at your plan and helping you, but I couldn't tell you that's one of those it depends types of questions. So for example, let's just say all of your liquid assets are tied up in one investment property, right? And you don't have the credit or the liquidity or the cash flow to do something else in that particular business entity, then it makes sense to rebuild another or build another one to do that. And those are the type of things that they're going to pay attention to. Lenders, they are the lenders. I hate saying they because it's like, who are they? Right. But those are the type of things that the lenders are going to pay attention to. Do you have the collateral? Do you have the cash flow? Do you have the capacity to actually pay it off when you get it? Right. And so if that takes place in multiple businesses, then that's what you have to do. But if you could do it in one and just build up that one, then that makes sense too. But they're always going to look at those 8 boxes that I talked about, which is like your credit score, your credit history, your cash flow, your time in business, your collateral, the industry you're in, your loyalty to them, and then your credibility. So it depends. Hopefully that helps.
This is just to piggyback on what he'd asked earlier. I know with personal credit, I can go to annualcreditreport.com and get a copy of my report, right, for free.
Mhm.
Is there a way to monitor, because I think you had referenced several tracking agencies. Is there a way to monitor where I am on the
Business credit?
on the steps that I need to do to get business credit?
Yes, one of the platforms that I did not share, and I don't know why I didn't share this with you all, but there's a platform called NAV, N-A-V. That platform brings in everything at once. So it brings in your trade lines that you have, your credit, your business credit scores. It also makes recommendations. Now, let me tell y'all this before y'all go developing this NAV account. NAV is a business, and every business is in the business of making money. So they get paid several ways, right? They get paid by the folks that they're allowing to advertise to you, but then they also want you to boost up whatever freemium that they give you. Just use the free account, monitor all of your things through there. It's a great system. Now, you don't have to upgrade. Some people do. They want to expedite, do things like that. You don't have to, but you can. But that system is called NAV, NAV.com. Thank you for that question, because I don't know how I missed that, but I did. It is 7:52. You all have my contact information. I would love to sit down with you individually and assist you with building up your business credit or your personal credit. I would be ecstatic to help your clients. So if you all have clients that you are trying to get approved or trying to get lower interest rates, I would love to help. Like I said, I've built out a system that helps to improve credit by about 90 points in 90 days. So if people are right on that cusp where, they can get a really amazing interest rate, definitely please send them my way. You want folks to get into something, especially long-term interest rates. You want them to be as low as possible, right? So any way that I can support or help, please reach out. I love referrals. So please refer your clients, your family members, your loved ones. And I look forward to being in community with you all.
Thank you, Jenefeness.
You're welcome.
So we'll touch base.
All righty. Thanks a lot. Bye.